Crystal, to ease our audience into the conversation and into brands, I'd like to first start with some trends. What do you observe as the main trends that are prevailing right now in branding that Sri Lanka can optimize on?
I'm going to talk about three trends. The first trend that I'd like to talk about is the pet care industry. For Sri Lanka, I think we definitely need to take advantage of this global phenomenon. So I'm thinking things like if local entrepreneurs can actually, or local companies can actually start coming out with pet products, or even niche categories like your pet food, organic pet food, pet treats, pet grooming, pet insurance is a big thing overseas, but we don't have that in Sri Lanka.
We don't have it at all.
Another significant trend which Sri Lanka should really capitalize on is the aging population. So what are the implications for this? One is workforce productivity, that's going to get impacted. The second one, of course, is the whole aged care and infrastructure. And the third one is an increasing pressure on the healthcare systems, right? If we can do it the right way, then we should be able to build an ecosystem for the elderly. And at the end of the day, this population, this segment of the population, they're going to need and they're going to want specialized services. And also moving forward, our senior citizens or the aged population, they're not only going to be more healthier, they're going to be more connected and they're going to be more aspirational. So we can really become a role model for the region in Asia.
Brands Annual 2025 is out, and in it we have Sri Lanka's most loved brands for the year. We spoke about all of this with Crystal Nathan. Stay tuned.
When you have an ambition, trust your instincts, move forward. This is your moment to shape your future, to be independent, to strengthen yourself. Your time is now. Accelerate your progress, empowering your progress for a fulfilled life. Union Assurance.
For 30 years, LMD has been the voice of business in Sri Lanka, capturing the pulse of the nation's corporate landscape through its iconic covers. Each cover tells a story, from the first edition in 1994 to the present day, narrating key moments, leaders and trends that have shaped Sri Lanka's business ecosystem. Over the years, LMD covers have featured thought leaders, business pioneers and game-changing innovations, reflecting the evolution of industries and the economy. As we celebrate 30 years, these covers represent more than just publications. They are a testament to LMD's legacy of excellence in business journalism and its unwavering commitment to being Sri Lanka's leading voice of business. LMD, Sri Lanka's voice of business, a legacy of 30 years.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. We're focusing on brands today. And I'm here with the Chief Insights Officer and Executive Director of PepperCube Consultants, Crystal Nathan. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Ruwandi. Pleasure to be here.
Lovely. Crystal, to ease our audience into the conversation and into brands, I'd like to first start with some trends. What do you observe as the main trends that are prevailing right now in branding that Sri Lanka can optimize on?
Okay, that's not an easy one. That's a heavy hitter. But anyway, I think it's good to start off with trends. So I'm going to talk about three trends. The first trend that I'd like to talk about is the pet care industry.
Wow, did not think of that. Okay.
Yes, this is a booming industry globally. In 2025, they've actually projected, or I think it's going to surpass $380 billion. And in the next 5 years, it's going to hit $550 billion, right? So like I said, it's a huge industry. However, in Sri Lanka, we're very, very nascent. Yeah. We're only doing something like $52 million. With an annual CAGR of 6%, we'll probably get to 70 million in the next couple of years, right? So why is this shift happening? Well, there are three key things. One is clearly the ownership of pets is increasing, especially in urban households. The second one, and this is what I find absolutely fascinating, is humanization of pets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I recall many years ago, I did this large survey, or rather, I did this large research for a company, and I actually came out with humanization of pets as being one of the trends, and they all laughed at me in the boardroom.
Wow.
Today,
It's happening.
exactly, it's happening. I mean, today, look at the number of cat and dog videos on TikTok, on Instagram. You know it's there. The clothes, exactly, right? And the third one is we definitely witnessed an advancement when it comes to veterinary care and pet nutrition. Okay, so for Sri Lanka, I think we definitely need to take advantage of this global phenomenon and see what we can do. So I'm thinking things like if local entrepreneurs can actually, or local companies can actually start coming out with pet products, or even niche categories like your pet food, organic pet food, pet treats, pet grooming, pet insurance is a big thing overseas, but we don't have that in Sri Lanka.
We don't have it at all.
And not that I know of, right? So something like that would be quite a nice area for Sri Lanka to optimize on. And I think with the right ecosystem, Sri Lanka can definitely pour out a slice from the global industry.
Love the pun there.
So that's what I think is my first trend. Another significant trend which Sri Lanka should really capitalize on is the aging population. I do know that a lot of people talk about Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, but let's not forget the our senior citizens. So let me throw some facts at you. Do you know that 12.3% of our Sri Lankan population are actually above 60 plus years old? Now, this makes us as a country in South Asia, which has a highly disproportionate aging population. And this generational shift has been happening for quite some time. So it started in the 1980s. So from 1980 to 2012, the population figure went up from 6.6% to 12.3%.
That's huge.
And in the next decade, we're actually going to move to 25%.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, that's a big number. So what are the implications for this? One is workforce productivity. That's going to get impacted. The second one, of course, is the whole aged care and infrastructure. And the third one is an increasing pressure on the healthcare systems, right? So I believe that if Sri Lanka, again, if we can do it the right way, then we should be able to build an ecosystem for the elderly. And at the end of the day, this population, this segment of the population, they're going to need and they're going to want specialized services. So think retirement homes, think retirement care, assisted mobility, specialized devices for hearing, for sight and sound. We're also talking about travel and tourism and cosmetics as well.
Exactly.
Right? Because you definitely want to look younger, your bodies want to look good. And, even thinking about tailored plans for nutrition and fitness. So
that's huge.
that is huge. And once again, I don't think we're doing it right. So, we haven't started yet. So, ideally, if Sri Lanka can leverage on this phenomenon, then I believe that we can actually be one of those countries that can be a role model in terms of in terms of senior citizens. And also moving forward, our senior citizens or the aged population, they're not only going to be more healthier, they're going to be more connected and they're going to be more aspirational. So we can really become a role model for the region in Asia.
All three things you said, so many opportunities.
Yes, absolutely.
I love the note of optimism that we started this on.
Yes, but I want to give you one more trend, right? Given that this segment is called Brands in Focus, how can I not pay homage to brand purpose? And like I said, most of the marketeers have been talking about brand purpose, so it's only fair that we talk about it as a trend. So Simon Sinek actually at one point remarked, people do not buy what you do, they actually buy why you do it.
Oh, that's lovely.
Right? And just in case you think that I'm a biased follower of Simon Sinek, let me throw some data at you. I mean, at the end of the day, I am a researcher. So there was a study that was conducted across 12 markets with 15,000 consumers.
Okay.
And the findings were absolutely fascinating. So the question was, how do you choose brands? That was the basic thing. And what we found was 1 in 2 consumers are actually making their brand choice based on the brand's stance on political, social, and environmental issues. Right. Which basically comes down to what is the purpose of the brand? Why does that brand exist? Right. And the other interesting thing, the other fascinating thing that I found was it was not just brand purpose is not just consumer driven, it's also internally driven. 73% of the CEOs said that brand purpose actually shapes their internal decision making.
My goodness.
Talk about a North Star, right? Yeah. So in Sri Lanka today, brands is, at one point in time, having a brand purpose was actually your USP. It was it was your competitive advantage. Today, it's actually a hygiene factor. Right? So brands need to have a purpose which is authentic, which is relevant, and which also connects with the audience. Brands that do this and do it well will definitely not just survive, but thrive in the marketplace.
Wow, that's amazing. And talking about audiences, I mean, 1 in 2, that is huge. That is very huge. Looking at our Sri Lankan audiences, I'd like to talk to you and get some insights, some unique insights about the average Sri Lankan consumer of branding content.
Okay?
Because that's how the brand goes to them. What can you share?
Absolutely. Ruwandi, I'm an eternal optimist, right? And I mean, for me, there's never better a time than now. So let me give you some data. So at PepperCube Consultants, what we do is we tend to track several indices across the market. And I can tell you based on that data, business confidence is definitely on the rise.
Right.
The stock market's doing well, as we all know. Consumer confidence is on the rise. We also track something called savings index, where we've seen that the percentage of people who earn more than they spend has increased 8-fold versus 3 years. Right? Wow. And as part of our retail measurement service, where we track the performance of brands, what we've seen is there's been a 15 to 18% growth in the FMCG sector versus last year.
Versus last year.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing good.
We are, excuse me, we definitely are doing good. The momentum is definitely up. But does that mean everything is hunky-dory? Certainly not. And I don't know how sustainable this is, right? So now let's come down to what do consumers want from a brand. So we live in a world which is, there's so much of global strife, there's so much of local uncertainties. And at the end of the day, what the consumer is looking for is stability.
Right.
Is looking for consistency, right? So in this kind of an environment, as a brand, if I can give you something that you can latch on to, that is dependable, that is reassuring, and that also tells you that you will get the same experience every time you interact with a brand, then that's a definite tick. Yeah. So, and this is where brands truly play a huge difference, because a brand that is authentic, a brand that is relevant will certainly connect with the consumer in a stronger manner emotionally than other brands do. Yeah. But it just doesn't stop there, and Sri Lanka, like many other countries, we're a polarized society. Yes. So whilst we like the stability and consistency, we also crave for excitement.
Yes.
We crave for disruption. We crave for big, bold ideas. So a brand that can maintain a good balance between consistency, between trustworthiness, and being transformative, in the marketplace, those are the brands that are going to win. And that's what your Sri Lankan consumer wants.
That's a tough one that's a tough one to meet. So would you say that they have to be consistent in terms of their values and change their appeal, or how is it? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think, it has to be, yes, they have to be consistent in terms of their values, which stems from the purpose, but also in terms of the interaction, experience, and engagement that they give to the consumer. That has to be consistent, because a consumer always likes to choose a brand that makes them feel good.
Yes.
And if as a brand, if I can make you feel good every time, then that makes sense.
That's a winning formula.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. It's now time to take a very short break, but we'll soon be back to talk more about brands.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
Welcome back to the show. We're in conversation with the Chief Insights Officer and Executive Director of PepperCube Consultants, Crystal Nathan. So our consumers are not the easiest to please.
Yes.
Talking of consumers, talking of people who love brands, Brands Annual 2025 is out and we are all so excited about it. And of course, PepperCube Consultants, you guys did the survey behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have a lot of insights that you can share. I'm very interested to know, what do you see as the most unique features when it comes to brands that made that list of most loved brands, those who earned the consumer's love?
Yep. Ooh, this is really, really exciting. Yes, the most loved brands list is out. And I know it's actually creating a massive buzz in the market.
Yes.
So a couple of things that I want to say. And you very rightly said, this is our second year collaborating with the LMD team. And it's been an absolutely wonderful journey that we've embarked on. So the first thing that I'd like to say is every time you look at research findings or when you look at the listings, you always need to make sure that you keep the target audience in mind, right? So this survey was done amongst the LMD readers. So which means it is actually the LMD readers' most loved brand and therefore cannot be extrapolated to the general population. Yeah? So that's the first one. The second one, of course, is the fact that we've made a lot of changes to it. So last year when we started it off, we had 32 categories.
Okay.
This year, we expanded it to 43 categories. Then we've also, in consultation with the LMD team, we've also made some meaningful revisions to the list. So for instance, we've got a new category called new brand that has come in, which was very, very exciting.
Waves are everywhere.
Exactly. Then the other one that we saw was e-commerce, right? So with e-commerce, again, last year, everything was plugged onto one category called e-commerce. But now, I mean, Sri Lanka digitalization is becoming a thing, is becoming, is something that's here to stay. What we decided this year, was we split it up into two subcategories. Okay. So we have e-commerce finance and we have e-commerce retail, right? So that way, because the dynamics are different between the two categories, and it only makes sense to have them as two separate ones. But let me talk about some of the themes that I noticed. Definitely, the list of brands that got nominated across categories was very, very long.
Okay.
What does this tell us? It tells us that this base of consumers are very aware, but they also are spoiled for choice. They have a plethora of choices out there, and it makes the challenge for the brands even more difficult, right? The second one, and this is an interesting one, when it came to the corporate list, except for one company in the top 15, everybody else was local Sri Lankan companies.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, which is fantastic for the Sri Lankan business community, right? When it came to the product brands, what we saw was a healthy balance between global brands as well as local brands that have made it globally, like a Sparsalon or a Dilmah, which again reflects the preferences and the pride of this target audience.
Yes.
Yeah, and of Sri Lanka. And then let's talk about the new category, because you mentioned that's
excited about
that created a buzz. For me, what I found fascinating about the new brand category was we had BYD and Cinnamon Life getting ranked really highly, right? And once again, this showcases that both these brands have managed to successfully launch their brands with the target audience. And that's where it struck a chord of time. In a short amount of time. So that's where it struck a chord, right? So overall, I feel it reflects a dynamic market where you have a healthy existence of local and global brands that are competing for, for a connection, for innovation, for experience. But net, it's actually a vibrant list, which kind of gives great clues to brands who want to win in the marketplace.
Lovely. And my goodness, 43 categories and then a long list in all those categories.
Yes.
I think that's a definite win for all of us.
Yes.
Crystal, this has been an amazing conversation and did not see the time go. So unfortunately, I have to ask you the last question, which is kind of like my favorite. So when you look at most loved brands listing this year, for all other brands, who made it, who didn't make it, whatever, what would you say are the key ingredients that make a most loved brand in Sri Lanka today?
Yeah. So I think there are lots of ingredients, but I'll try and give you 3 key ingredients, which again is just from my perspective, right? So the first thing, I think a brand needs stability. So if we have a brand that has a heritage, a lineage, and a legacy, and they showcase that well, then that's a winning brand. The second one, I've harped on this throughout the interview, is consistency. Ensuring that you give the same experience time and again That's what's going to earn your loyalty. The third one, of course, is being relevant and authentic and ensuring that you cater to the needs of the consumer in the right manner. I know you said this is your favorite question, so let me give you my favorite. And I know I said 3 points, but I'll give you one more point, which is the bonus ingredient. And Ruwandi, especially because we live in today's world, which is such a VUCA world, right? So a most loved brand needs to go beyond profits. Okay, it should actually contribute to the nation building. So a brand that showcases how they're giving back to society, as well as ensuring how they build the nation and the economy and create shared value, is a good brand to have, right? So net, what I'm saying is a brand needs to be trustworthy, it needs to be consistent, it needs to be relevant, authentic, and it has to have a social conscience. When that happens, consumers don't just like your brand, they love your brand and they keep falling in love with your brand.
Oh, amazing. The winning formula for branding. Thank you, Crystal.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much. We've been in conversation with the Chief Insights Officer and Executive Director of PepperCube Consultants, Crystal Nathan. Thank you. I absolutely love the conversation.
You're most welcome. Thank you, Ruwandi.
And thank you to all our viewers for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. Thank you for watching and stay safe.